you've been with us for a while, you know that one of the biggest hurdles people who are struggling with mental ill health have to deal with is isolation and a lack of connection. Their struggles are invisible, hidden, and so often prey on the notion that no one will understand, and so they stay quiet, they don't reach out, they miss out on something that can actually make a huge difference in their healing journey: connection. But did you realise that a lack of connection goes way further than just those who might be struggling with their mental health? This month on Anxious Faith, we're going to be looking at connection.
Well, let's do a quick trip around the world when it comes to statistics, because the need is huge.
This is Sheridan Voysey, our guest for this episode, who I'll introduce you soon.
So in Australia, the figures that I have, 25% of Australians say they have no one to talk to or turn to. Something like 33% of people say that they are not part of a friendship group. Here in the UK, where I'm based on now, 20% of people have no close friends, 10% have no friends at all. In the United States, the number of people who say they have no close friends has quadrupled since 1990. So we seem to have this trend that seems to be happening not just simply across developed countries, but even actually developing countries as well.
Okay.
The Gallup organization last year did a bit of research, found that 25% of the world says that it's lonely. So we've got a huge need there.
From Our Daily Bread Ministries, we're back with another episode of Anxious Faith. I'm your host, James Burke. Now, I'm sure you'll agree with me. We're made for connection to God and to others. So what is it with these stats? Why are so many of us feeling isolated, lonely, disconnected? There are plenty of obvious reasons why. It's all social media's fault, you'll hear the news outlets reporting. This generation just doesn't talk anymore, cultural commentators will say. Regardless of why we might lack connection in our lives, we want to explore together what we can do about it. Is there an antidote to disconnection? How do we become people who are firmly secure in our families, friendships, and relationships and communities? Now, there's more to connection than just friendships. And the Bible has a lot to say about all different types: connection with God, connection to others, connection to community. For this episode, we're going to focus on that personal side of things and how we can address the decline in connection with our friends, both from some personal experience and from the Bible. So let's get into it.
It used to be kind of okay to talk about, I've been in broadcasting 25 years. That sounded kind of authoritative, but now it's getting a little bit more than that. And now you're just starting to sound old, Sheridan. So,
Sheridan Voysey is a speaker, author, radio broadcaster, and one of the writers for the Our Daily Bread devotional. And we caught up with him late last year to talk through friendship, connection, and how we can be better friends to those around us. Why talk to him about this? Well, Sheridan has founded a non-profit called Friendship Lab, which seeks to address this very issue.
We were sitting in a seminar on fostering and adoption, and my wife and I were listening to all of these, this really important guidance as to what to do if you go forward as either a foster carer or an adoptive parent. And then the seminar leader, straight talking as she was, sitting in that Sydney seminar room, she said, "You're going to need a support group around you." Then she raised this question: who can you call at 2 a.m. when everything has gone wrong? And I remember my pen hovering over the workbook because I wasn't too sure who to write down. And that was my catalyst, just like you. There is a catalyst in which we realize, hang on a sec, I've neglected a whole bunch of potential friends, or indeed friends, in my life because I haven't been intentional.
So we can see this as a problem. And look, I'm going to be, one of the very first people to put my hand up and say, this is an issue that I've brushed up against it and deal with myself. You sit around, it's been one of those weeks or months where work is busy and family life might be busy kind of thing, but that consumes all your time, and you're just like, well, hang on, who have I actually been talking with recently that I'm not either paid to be there with or I'm related by blood to? And you realize that it's actually not one, and you think, okay, I'm going to reach out, but then pick up your phone and who there's no one that comes to mind that I would necessarily just out of nowhere go, here's a stream of consciousness, how you going, let's catch up, let's go for a walk, let's go for a drink, whatever it might be, kind of thing. And so this idea that we're struggling with friendships really started to hammer home to me, and I think it was for me after lockdowns ended. And I realized that my life didn't really change that much now that I was allowed out of my house and allowed to go where I wanted to. But the reality is that besides one or two people, there wasn't really any driver for me to go, okay, well, I'll go and see these people or organize to do something. And I'm just like, wow, okay, that's wild. And I could feel that there was something missing in myself. Like, I have a wonderful wife, I have wonderful kids, I have wonderful colleagues that I work with, kind of thing. But there's very clearly, there was a part of me that was not being nourished in some way that I wasn't able to get from those existing relationships or colleagues and things like that. And so here we are. What do we do about it is kind of one of the big things, because
Before we dive any deeper, and at risk of asking a really, really basic question, what exactly do we mean by the word friend? Sure, we all have people around us, but if we're going to level up our friendship through this episode, let's work out where we're starting from.
Can we just clarify what a friend is? Because I think just from what you said there, we can misunderstand a whole bunch of other relationships for friendship. Our colleagues are wonderful people, and it's wonderful when we've got a great working environment and relationship with those people. Our colleagues are not necessarily our friends. They can become our friends. That's a different step. But our colleagues are not our friends. I speak to too many people who have just retired and they realize all this time I thought I had friends, but actually I've only had colleagues, and now I'm discovering the difference.
Or you move on from a job or a workplace and you think these people that, we were so close, we shared so much, and you literally may never hear from them again.
Exactly. And then when you think, hang on a sec, what did we talk about in the lunchroom? It was mostly shop stuff.
Yeah.
So you've got to make a step beyond that. A friend is someone we can talk to, depend on, grow with, and enjoy. Those are the four factors that we talk about. Someone I can talk to, depend on, grow with, and enjoy. And to be a good friend, I need to be someone they can talk to, depend on, grow with, and enjoy. So let's have that. That's a high benchmark. But if we pursue that, then we'll be able to develop what we're looking for. At the moment, we're just floundering, so we don't know actually what a friendship is.
Yeah. Can we break those four down very briefly into what are these kind of four different dynamics that make up a friendship?
So when you got to the end of the pandemic and the doors opened, you could go out again and you say, I'm not too sure actually who to call. A friend is someone I can talk to about the little things, football scores, holiday plans, but also over time, the big things, doubts, questions, fears, regrets. Someone I can depend on. They're the people we can call at 2 a.m. when everything has gone wrong, when we need that support group around us. They're the people that can call on us at 2 a.m. This is the other thing, is that for some of us, we don't want to call somebody else because we think we're going to be putting them out. But we actually need to get to a point where we say, hang on, I am the person you can call at 2 a.m. and you call me if you need me at 2 a.m. It can be small, I just need somebody to look after the cat while I go on holiday, or it can be indeed those big crisis moments. Someone to grow with. I mean, Aristotle, talked about friendship being the school of virtue. It's the place in which we are shaped to be the people we are supposed to be. In the Christian context, boy, everything to do with character is shaped by community, those people around us. Iron sharpens iron, right? We've got proverbs galore about those kinds of relational dynamics that help me to be the person I'm supposed to be, hold me back from being the person that perhaps my worst tendencies want me to take and become.
Yep.
So it's somebody I can grow with, somebody who will help me to pursue the things that I'm really called to do, and keep me away from the things that I'm not called to do. And then someone to enjoy. Ultimately, it's very hard to have a friendship where you're not laughing. They don't have to have exactly the same sense of humor, but there's got to be some joy. I just really like to be in James's presence. I just really like to be around. And it may not be because of, tears in the eyes, laughter. It may be because he always listens so well. I just love being in his presence. Or because he just brings something really insightful. It can be all manner of things, but we need to enjoy each other. That's the benchmark of a friendship, I think.
See, here at Anxious Faith, as a part of our Daily Bread ministries, our goal is to invite people to take a break from the noise of the world and connect to God. We want to help understand how the Bible is connected to our everyday lives by creating moments for pause and reflection, so the threads between Scripture and what we're facing in our lives seem clear. Let's have a look at some friends in the Bible and see how that's connected to us in everyday life today. You can probably think of a couple of notable friendships that are recorded in the Scriptures. People like Ruth and Naomi come to mind, a friendship that developed and grew and blossomed after the death of Ruth's husband, who was Naomi's son, and Ruth's commitment to stay with Naomi. Or you might think of David and Jonathan, friends who committed themselves to each other and were as close as brothers, even when Jonathan's dad, King Saul, was out trying to find and kill David.
There's the obvious ones, Ruth and Naomi, David and Jonathan, which on the rare occasions when you do hear a sermon on friendship, they're generally the focus. And that's fine. I'm happy for anybody to be talking about friendship. And those are rich examples, by the way, particularly David and Jonathan. It's an example of what we might call covenantal friendship, where there is actually commitments made to each other. You know, I will go where you go. Same with Ruth and Naomi as well. There are some other lesser known areas, which is the ones that particularly get me interested. When we hear at a wedding, a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken, out of Ecclesiastes.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful image, powerful scripture. The context is not romance. The context is actually friendship. When they need somebody to pull them up, that's talking about friendship. When we lie down because you need warmth, that's actually not talking about the marriage bed. That's actually talking about friendship. Let's talk about 1 Corinthians 13, something else that often is read at weddings. It's a beautiful passage, and it is talking about that wonderful agape, self-sacrificial love. Love is patient, love is kind, doesn't envy, doesn't boast. The context is not relationships in that sense, friends. It's not romance. The context is a bunch of friends in Corinth who were not getting on. And Paul wanted to help them to work out how to keep these friendships, these relationships intact. I think 1 Corinthians 13 is the most powerful passage on friendship, because if you pull it back into its context and just do the old, rewriting thing, friendship is patient, friendship is kind, it doesn't envy, it doesn't boast. And James, when you correlate that to the research, it is profound. We know that some of the research says that some of the biggest interpersonal friendship breakers are things like jealousy. When you've got something that I wanted and I'd rather I had it instead of you, that's a big friendship breaker, or it can be if you allow it to keep on going in that direction. Friendship doesn't envy, doesn't boast. That's another friendship breaker. It doesn't keep a record of wrongs. How horrible when you have a friend who reminds you of all those things that you've done in the past. That's what we would call a toxic friendship.
Yeah.
So that is a wonderful passage for friendship, to work out the virtues, the qualities that we need to be a good friend and then to strive for in our friendships together.
And then there's the classic meme of Jesus' greatest miracle actually being that he was in his 30s and had 12 close friends.
And let me throw in another little nugget there in terms
please.
of friendship and the Bible. The best portrayal of friendship I've ever seen in the scriptures is actually not Jesus and the disciples. That's great. Okay. And so when we hear John 15, Jesus says, I no longer call you servants, I call you friends. That's profound, powerful. Again, Plato said you can't be friends with a God because friendship requires equality. And here Jesus is saying, I am Lord, but I am bringing myself down to your level. I'm raising you up to my level so that we might be friends. Profound, absolutely profound. Here's a friendship in the scriptures that is often overlooked, and it's the relationship between Jesus, Mary, and Martha and Lazarus. They were not part of the 12 disciples. They were not part of the 72 disciples. And yet when you see the relationship that develops between them over, I think, Luke 9, John 10, John 11, you see a depth of intimacy that you don't see in even the relationships that you see with Jesus and the disciples. For a start, Mary and Martha, they are so open and honest with Jesus. If you were just here, my brother wouldn't have died. You don't hear anybody else in the New Testament talk to Jesus like that. Everybody else is very deferential. Lord, what must I do to be saved? Lord, would you come and heal my child? Very deferential. Good Lord, what's the greatest commandment? Here we have people that are speaking very openly and honestly because they've got an intimacy that allows for that. Go and read that whole story of that friendship and you will see profound aspects of what a true friend really is.
And we see it played out then when Lazarus dies and Jesus goes, and Jesus being, the Lord who is literally about to then raise Lazarus from the dead, still actually takes that time to mourn and grieve with his friends because they needed him during that time. They needed a friend they could depend on.
Oh, and even more. Lazarus, Mary, and Martha are the only people in the New Testament that we're told that Jesus loved. Now, of course, he loves the whole world. Of course, he loves us. God loved the whole world that he gave his only son. No, specifically, they're the only three people in the New Testament that we are told that Jesus loved. John tried to apply it to himself. He said, the one that Jesus loved turned to me and said, but no, that's John applying it to himself, and it's almost deferential. No, it says Jesus loved Mary and Martha and Lazarus. And then when Jesus is then at the grave of Lazarus, you see the crowd, when they see him crying, the crowd then says, see how much he loved him. Again, we can't miss these details. They are the signs of a profoundly deep and intimate friendship, which wasn't based on work. It wasn't based on mission. It was based on when he went through Bethany, he would stay at their flat, he would enjoy their hospitality, and they would all have a nice time together.
If Jesus had friends, and friends as close as this, it's a pretty good indication we should have friends like this. But it's difficult. I know. The idea of having to go and make new friends seems exciting to some people, while for others it's a prospect that might be anxiety-inducing. However, whether we're excited by that prospect or scared of it, the simple matter is we're in a place where we don't have the kinds of friendships around us that we want or need or dream for. That can be a pretty lonely place. One of the things in this episode we haven't looked at is the reasons why there's such an issue of friendlessness and lack of connection that so many people are feeling. Loneliness is huge and probably does far more damage than we think it does. But we're not going to go into that right now. We did, however, have a whole episode looking at loneliness, chatting with Kimberly Smith, a church leader here in Melbourne, Australia. Back in episode 33, Kimberly had something pretty profound to say when it came to trying to put ourselves out there and take the first step to make friends and to try and combat that loneliness.
My working theory is that everybody assumes everyone else has more social currency.
What does that mean? We might find ourselves thinking, I'd like to be friends with someone or get to know them more, but what could I possibly offer to them? We think we're the ones without something to offer in the friendships, but we underestimate how much other people may be in the same boat. In Kimberly's experience and in the context of an episode talking specifically about loneliness and singleness, she shared how that can be completely flipped around the wrong way.
One of the gifts that I give families all the time is to tell them that your messy, normal, boring, crazy family is a gift to some solo people. And for me, going to someone's house, pulling out my crochet, having my slippers on, sitting on the couch, like they're up and down because they had to go and pick up someone from tennis and they had to go and drop off something and thing, and the dishes in the sink and we're having pizza anyway and we can't sit at the table because there's laundry on it, that sort of thing. That I can't generate that experience for myself. I mean, I can do the mess, but I can't do the fun and the chaos that goes around that. Yeah. And so it actually is a gift. Like just to be able to sit, you're watching a TV show and say, what was that about? Like to somebody, that rather than to myself. I just have my own goggle box going on where I'm highly entertaining, but no one gets to hear it, which is a shame. So being able to be invited into those kind of spaces, I think is really, as I say, it's a gift and everyone has them. Yeah. And in fact, it's probably the thing that gets in the way of some people extending themselves in hospitality is, I can't do the silver service this week, But
or the house isn't clean enough and can't have people over.
What I feel is literally every interaction I have with a human has to be planned and done. So in what you just described, I'm like, no, you need to be the one who invites because you have less at stake. I'm not going to put myself out there to say, hey, can I come to your house and throw things at the telly? Yep. Because I can't risk the no. Right? Yeah, so my fear around my sense of social insecurity or sensitivity can often have me thinking you're the one who should do all the inviting. I think that's part of the conversation too, absolutely. Is that I have a girlfriend who says to me sometimes, like, is this like a no, I need you to push me through to a yes, or an actual no? Like, are you right by yourself? Yeah. Is that you are right by yourself or you don't want to say you're not because you're worried that something, pushing into that space and making you actually name some of those things to equip the other person, like in that relationship with being more likely to get it right, that, because if I'm just waiting for you to invite me and you don't, and you're thinking she must be fine because she hasn't said can I come over? We're missing each other in that. And so I think the assumption that others have more social currency than you can really undo us. I look at that in the church context because the number of people who experience a lack of welcome.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people who are in the church not feeling safe and connected enough to be the one to welcome them.
Yeah.
That these are my people and I love them, but I'm really not secure enough to know that if I were to leave them, that I'd still be okay. And then I'm going over here to someone who may or may not like me. I mean, we've all had the experience like, hey, how are you? No, thank you. And so there's this big risk that but I think there's a bit of an underlying sense that we just miscalculate who has the social power.
Yeah.
And I think recognizing we all have a degree of power, of capacity in that. And there's some questioning and some work to do around that, both individually and even how we talk about it, like who holds the social power.
Kimberly's episode was episode 33. It's lonely out there. You can watch or listen to it through the links in our show notes. There's two things in this episode that get really practical that we want to have a look at here. How to both find people to be investing in, and then how we actually go about growing and developing and strengthening those friendships. But before we jump into that, I want to remind you that on our website, anxiousfaith.org, we've got content that lines up with what the podcast episode each month. So this month, there's blogs and articles talking all about connection. And we've even got more content on our social channels as well. Make sure you're following us there on socials and head to anxiousfaith.org to see that extra content. So those two practical things, how do we find the people to invest in, and how do we go about growing those friendships once we've found them?
If this is seeming very overwhelming and I don't know who to start with or how to discern who I should be investing my time in to build friendships with, how do I go about doing that?
Yeah. So to do that, to find those like-minded people, there's a few things that you need to do. Number one, you start with small talk. You will never be able to sidestep this. There are some programs in which you can get two people in a room, get them to go through a list of questions very intensely, and you can actually fast forward this. The problem is I've never been able to see it work outside of a clinical context. But generally you have to start, do the hard work, small talk, find out those people that you have something in common with. But then look for the spark. I'm giving you a lot of good material here today,
Absolutely.
James.
Absolutely. This is fantastic.
Here we go. We've got a whole thing on this in the Friendship Lab course. SPARK is an acronym. S is for similarity. You're looking for some sort of shared life experience, some sort of shared outlooks, some sort of shared worldview, perhaps. Something in which you can say, oh, okay, he's a dad with 2 kids and so am I. We're around about the same age. We've got at least some sort of ballpark similarity to start with.
Yeah.
P is pastimes. What do we do that we might be able to do together? Oh, you like playing tennis too? Okay, note that. A is availability, the thing that we often overlook. Some people are just not available for new friendships. Their friendship circles are full. And so we can kind of think, oh, I'd really like to get together with him, but he's just not kind of coming back to me. He may just have absolutely full social circles. And so they just don't have availability for that. R is responsiveness. And this is one for us to do as well. All of these are for us to do. But responsiveness is when I talk to them, they look me in the eye. They seem to be interested in what I have to say. We seem to have a similar sense of humor. We both laugh at the same things. He's not kind of looking all around the room while I'm talking about something really deep and meaningful. So responsiveness is key. And then C is compatible values. That we're actually going in the same direction. If they absolutely detest what you absolutely love, it's going to be hard. So that can be a helpful acrostic to finding those people. SPARK.
Say you find these people. It can be hard to know how to take a friendship that might happen by circumstance or proximity. There doesn't seem to be anything hugely intentional about it. What do we do then? Well, Sheridan has 3 basic things we can do. To be honest, I was kind of shocked how simple they were when he shared them. But as they've sat in my mind for the last couple of months, I realized how weighty they actually are, as simple as they may seem.
We have to be intentional. Yeah. And if you're in that situation, there are 2 options. One, you can wait for everybody else to reach out to you. Good luck with that. Because as a culture, we have neglected friendships so much that you might be waiting for a bit. Or we could actually be intentional ourselves and actually go out and do something. But here are 3 things that you can do any time of the week. And in fact, I encourage people to do at least 3 of these every single week.
Okay.
And that is check-ins, catch-ups, and meetups. So a check-in is a quick text, a message, can be email, can be WhatsApp, whatever you choose to do. Hey, James, you're on my mind. How are you doing this week? That's as simple as it is.
Yeah.
or it might be following up on something. Hey, are you feeling better from the cold that you had last week, or whatever it might be? So a check-in. A catch-up is, gosh, an actual phone call. Can you believe these things don't just surf the net? You can actually talk to people on them. It's quite amazing, this technology. I know few people know it. James, mate, no other reason to call you apart from the fact that you've been on my mind. How's this week gone for you? How's workload and stuff like that? Keep it to less than 10 minutes. That way, James is not going to be worried when he sees your name flashing up on the phone. Oh, I got a 45-minute call ahead of me if I take this call. Yep. Keep it nice and short. It can be a video call, can be a phone call, whatever it might be. So you've got check-ins, catch-ups, and then a meet-up. Actually get into the same room with them. Or if you are geographically distanced, get onto a video call and have a decent amount of catch-up time. If you do 3 of those, any of those, by the way, you might be in a state of real business like I've been in recently, where 3 check-ins is actually as much as you can handle because the schedule is just stupid. You're going to keep on maintaining contact with people. 3 catch-ups, that's going to be even better because there's the voice, not just simply the text, there's the emotion there. 3 meetups, getting in the room, having a 2-for-1 pizza on a Monday night, whatever it might be, that can bring you together to have and to share those stories, to have that laughter. You just do 1 of each every week, 2 of one of the others. You will develop closer relationships, especially when you're mindful of where the relationship is at and what I now need to do. Yeah. Small talk is really important with all of this as well. We must not diminish small talk. It's a very powerful tool. Small talk is how I discover what I have in common with that acquaintance in my workplace so that I can then move that relationship on beyond a colleague relationship to actually a friendship. So check-ins, catch-ups, meetups, do your small talk, move to your medium talk, then get to the deep talk when you've really developed a friendship.
It's incredibly simple when it's broken down like that, isn't it? Comes down to making time and space for those people. But even then, it's not a huge time commitment to begin with. A lot of you love the fact that we put a challenge to you last episode and asked you to try one of our resting in God practices that we looked at. So let's do it again, but this time in the realm of friendships. And just like last episode, it's going to be multiple choice. If you, like me, have been thinking about your friendships as you've been listening, then I'm going to put this challenge to you to try and do what Sheridan suggested. The concept of the check-in text, a catch-up short phone call, or meeting up in person. Let's make space for 2 or 3 of those things in our schedules this week. Grab your phone. Don't worry about pausing the episode. I'll keep chatting in your ear while you do this. And have a look at your calendar and make a note to give James a call on Tuesday evening, or whoever your friend is. Please don't actually all call me. I'm sure that there's a friend that you've been meaning to catch up with for a while, but haven't gotten around to it. Now, it might not be the full scheduling of the meetup, but right now, as you're listening, send them a quick message. Hey, want to grab coffee? Or whatever you'd normally do with that person. Now, as Sheridan said, how many of these check-ins, catch-ups, or meetups we do each week can ebb and flow based on what you're up to and what our capacity is. We certainly don't want you putting so much effort into others you neglect to look after yourself. So be realistic. If it's only 3 check-in messages to friends just to let them know you're thinking of them, fantastic. Do that. Send those 3 messages. With each of those friendships, you're still taking one little step closer to a deeper and more meaningful connection. Now, if this is stirring something in you and those don't seem like enough, here's another idea for you. Why not read through Ecclesiastes 4 or 1 Corinthians 13? These are the 2 passages that Sheridan was talking about, being chapters of the Bible that we often relate to a marriage relationship, but are actually more about friendships or relationships in general. Read through the passages, but read through them intentionally and prayerfully. This kind of builds on what we were doing last episode with our small moments of rest with God. As you're reading, ask God to bring to mind one of your friends with the verses you read, and take that verse and message it to your friend. Let them know that they came to mind as you were reading it. Let them know you're thinking of them, praying for them, and you value their friendship. Ask what else they might need prayer for, and then commit to do that. Bring that friend before the Lord each day for the rest of this week. If you want to think more about connection, how to grow your friendships and be more intentional, we've got blogs on our website, anxiousfaith.org, about it this month. And there's extra content on our social channels as well, so make sure you're following us there. And if you're curious as to what Friendship Lab is all about, well, let's let the man himself explain it.
So friendshiplab.org is kind of the mothership, and our main offering is this evidence-based course. So we've got years of research that has gone into this, and then we went and trialed it in 4 countries, 80 participants, and we saw that the results were actually very, very encouraging. So we offer that course in 2 forms. One is an on-demand course you can do around your busy life. We recognize busyness is a big thing here, so you can fit it in any time of the day or night. And then we do a series of live online courses that we do over time. And then in time, we'll have a small group curriculum for churches, workplaces, and things like that. But yeah, the course is our main thing. But come and get the free tools as well. friendshiplab.org, you can get a really handy list of questions that can help you work through that small talk, medium talk, big talk conundrum. So you've got somewhere to start with the person in front of you.
Our thanks to Sheridan for giving up his time to be a part of this episode and for sharing his expertise from the Friendship Lab. If you want to find out more about it, we'll have links to the Friendship Lab in the show notes or in the description below. Anxious Faith is a production of Our Daily Bread Ministries. If you want to find out more about what we do, head to our website, odb.org. And if you want to see more of what we're doing at Anxious Faith, head to our website there, anxiousfaith.org. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next episode.